Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our meeting on this Thursday, the 25th of November. As Ken has just mentioned, a reminder to everyone that it is being recorded, and if you do want to leave or switch off your video, you're more than welcome to. And we welcome Ola, and sorry, I thought I was mentioning somebody's John Winterstein. No. Meant to be on, no. But Ola, sorry, I pronounce your last name, but Ugbudi?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you. Apologies for anyone. Welcome, everyone, to the meeting. Tonight's talk is from Sandra Campbell, speaking on mercy ships, and we'll get into that shortly. And I'll be doing the thanks at the end. That's okay.
Sorry. Before you start, can I just say that a couple of people have given their apologies because they've got AGMs and actually community council tonight. Doreen and Anne Skeen, and also Margaret, who would have loved to have heard you talk, and that's one of the people we're recording it for, because she's actually been on a mercy ship.
Yeah, thank you for that, Sheena.
Okay.
On the list here.
Right. Well, thank you again for giving me this opportunity to share with Mercy Ships. I'm a nurse by profession, and I had retired in 2009 in December, and I had known of Mercy Ships for a number of years before that. And I went online after Christmas that year and looked to see what was available there, and they were appealing for nurses, for volunteers, full stop, to go out to Haiti after the earthquake because they were sending assistance to there. And my husband wasn't too happy about it at first, but he came round to it, and I went out for a month helping out in Haiti. And then after that, I became a speaker for Mercy Ships, and I realised I was speaking about a ship that I knew nothing about. So the next year I went out to Sierra Leone just to get some experience on the ship, and I was doing all sorts of domestic stuff and learning all about it. And they offered me a job as an admissions nurse on the ship. So every year since then, up until just before the pandemic, I was out every year, wherever they were in Africa, for usually 6 to 8 weeks, which was what was required of me in the particular job I was in. And it's been a great journey. It's one of the best things I've ever done. So I'm sharing something that my heart is really in, and I've had a great time with Mercy Ships, and to be so privileged to be involved with the work that I'm going to tell you all about. Okay, so welcome to my talk on Mercy Ships, and as I said, I'm part of the Speakers Network. We have had just one ship called the Africa Mercy, which was the ship I've served on, but we now have a second one which has just come from China and is in Antwerp at the moment, all being loaded up, and it is almost twice the capacity of the Africa Mercy. And we'll speak more about that later, but apparently I've got a friend who's just been there helping out, preparing the hospital. We're going into Senegal in March next year. So I'm hoping to get a chance to visit it before that. And it's very modern. And actually the Rotary International, you may be aware of it, had done a lot of fundraising for us, and they actually paid for the CT scan, very up-to-date modern CT scan, which will be amazing for helping us with the work that we're doing, assessing the patients. Okay. Move on. Right. You may not be aware, but I think one of the things is that we want to reach out to the poorest nations of the world, and we are a surgical hospital, not just a hospital per se, but we specialise in surgery. And 17 million people die every year in the world because they do not have access to safe, affordable surgery. So that is one of the reasons why we do what we have. We operate at the moment mainly, and for quite a number of years now, in sub-Saharan Africa, and 93% of the population there cannot access the healthcare that they need. It's a very, very poor area of among the poorest areas and countries in the world. And that's why we have concentrated on them at the moment. We have been in more than 55 developing countries since they started in 1978. That's how long we've been going. We usually have over 1,180 volunteers from over 60 nations every time that we are in a country. We'll go into that more. And we've done more than 105,500 life-changing surgeries in that time. It all began with a couple, American couple, Don and Dion Stevens. They worked with Youth for a Mission, but they in actual fact helped us. We seem to be moving quite fast here. They had the vision in actual fact for having a ship going out to serve. They had been serving abroad themselves and saw the needs, and that's where it began. Mercy Ships partners with nations to transform the lives of individuals and not just give medical care, but also leave a legacy of improved health care. And we'll speak about that in more detail. Why ships? It seems straight. Why don't we just build hospitals? Well, the reason that we, it goes faster, it doesn't go at all. Right, okay, why ships? Well, the reason is that we can bring everything that we need to be able to access all the medical needs that we have, you know, your bandages, your drugs, all these kind of things. We can't always get them in Africa, and very rarely can get the kind of equipment that we need. So we have a hospital which is fully equipped, just like any Western hospital. So we have it right to hand, and we have things being brought over to us as we need it as well from America and Rotterdam, places like that. So we carry everything that we need to work out the goals that we have. 50% of the world's population live within 100 miles of a port city. So it's the areas that we're actually, the ports that we come into, we actually have access to probably a concentrated amount of people within traveling distance to get them to the ship. So how do we do it? Well, we reduce the surgical backlog because there are all these millions of people who are waiting to get surgery or were never even expecting surgery until they were offered it. We're helping to reduce the numbers of that 17 million. It's a bit like a drop in the ocean, but you know, you've got to start somewhere, and we hope that in the long term, we'll actually do ourselves out of a job. I think that'll take a long time. We also mentor and train local healthcare professionals. It's not just us doing the surgery, but we actually train local healthcare professionals so that they can improve their knowledge, improve their skills, and also learn to train other people in their locality, in their countries, so that they can train the trainers, and then they can train the professionals around them. So it will be an expanding impact. And also to renovate and improve local healthcare facilities. And we'll show you examples of these. But hospitals there, let's say, face it, you wouldn't want to be there as a patient. The cleanliness, hygiene, you know, they're just very poorly equipped and not very hygienic. So we can't just go sailing into a country and say, here we are, this is what we can offer you. We've come to deal with your medical needs. You've got to have a collaboration with the government, and it can take 2 years or more in actual fact of negotiation with the government in order to get things organised, to assess what the needs of the country are and what their expectations are. So we work together in partnership with the government. So it takes quite a bit of time to get that all set up. So it's usually at least 2 years ahead. Then the phase 2 is the ship deployment. We go into a country for 10 months of a year. That is what our general time is. We usually go in sort of around about August and leave maybe the end of May, beginning of June, something like that. And then the ships obviously need to be kept up to date, and any repairs and things are done during that gap. And the long-term volunteers, who maybe 2 years and more on the ship, they can get home to their families as well at that time. And then phase 3, once we leave after the 10 months, we don't just abandon them anymore. We continue, the ones that have been trained, we do research to find out that if after a year, after 2 years, if the impact is still as good as it was when we left, or have they gone back into their old ways, or are they continuing to progress? And the research that they've been doing, they carry on with the training as well. They do it on Zoom. They carry on with the training, but they also see how well it has impacted. And we've generally found that even after 2 years, they haven't reversed back, because they've been so pleased to see things moving forward that they actually carry on with what they were taught. So that is always very encouraging. We also have patient selection, and we have teams who go around the country, and they also work with the local doctors who will send patients to us. But once we're in a country, we have what we call a selection day, and they're invited. The government will advertise that the ship is coming and when it's coming, and they will put things out on the radio, television for those that have it, and they put posters up in villages all over the country, and it goes on the radio so that people will get to know. And then we have, once we're all settled down in the port, they have a day for selection, and they come in their thousands. I've seen 7,000 patients coming on that selection day. I've only been to one because I was here at the start of thing, and we had 5,000 that day, and our day started at 6 in the morning and was still going late at night, and we still didn't get through them all. And it's a difficult time, because while we can't do the 7,000, and it's heartbreaking, because while it's great to see people coming and being glad that they're going to get the help that they need, it's heartbreaking to have to turn people away. So it's quite a stressful day for the crew. Everything that we do is free of charge. We don't pay, with some of the government help, but the individuals coming for care don't pay anything. And if they can't afford transport to the ship, then we will provide that as well. We have a wide range of very complex surgery. Maxillofacial is ongoing all the time, and is very, very highly skilled. And they work with plastic reconstructive as well. Orthopedics, obstetric fistula. We'll go into, give you examples of all these as we go along. There's general, eyes, dental, and also palliative care. We don't treat cancer, but we do support the patients. There are some graphic images, so I hope you won't find it upsetting, but it's interesting. This is a patient in Madagascar. I spent two services in Madagascar, that's in East Africa. We had to go there when the Ebola broke out in West Africa. So that's why Madagascar's on our screen here. Sambani is one of the much loved patients. He was with us for quite a long time, and I had actually arrived at Madagascar the same time as he arrived on the ship. I'll give you his story because it's so amazing, really. It's the largest tumor we have ever seen. We see lots of large tumors, and it really is they're life-threatening because ultimately they choke them and they can't swallow and they can't eat. And this one was really like a huge, it's just one huge blood thing. It was full of blood, and you see the big veins on it. And he was literally lying and dying. He'd had it for 20 years. He lived, the boat was on the east coast of Madagascar. It's a very, very mountainous island. It's just mountains from top to bottom. He was at the west side, and he was very isolated. He was a rice farmer, and but he was just lying on a mat in his hut and waiting to die, basically. And somebody had given him a radio, and he heard on the radio that this ship was coming to Tamatave, the other side of the island. But he couldn't walk, and his village was 2 days' walk from the main road where he could get a bus to travel over the island. So he sold one of his rice fields, which was a big loss for him because they're very poor. And a group of men from the village literally carried him for 2 days and 2 nights to get to the road to get the bus. He arrived at the ship and nobody was expecting him. Nobody had assessed him for treatment or anything. He just arrived and said, "Here I am." And it was very complex, the surgery. They had contacted consultants all over the world for advice. And they gave him the offer of surgery. And but they did say he could die on the table. And he says, "Well, I'm going to die anyway, so I'll just take my chance." And the ship was buzzing. That's why I'm telling the story. It was such a big story. The ship was absolutely buzzing the day he went to theatre. Everybody was going to the dining room, saying, any news from theatre? He went at 8 in the morning and didn't come out till 10 at night. So that's how long it was to do that very, very complex surgery. It required 17 units of blood during it because he lost so much blood. And it's a miracle he got through. And everybody was saying their prayers that day. But it was just a remarkable feat. And you can see he's got a bit of nerve damage down his face. And he was just such a lovely man. And he was so proud of the fact that he'd got 17 units of blood from volunteers from all over the world, because it's the volunteers on the ship that give their blood. And he says, "Now I'm international," he said, "I've got all this foreign blood in me." But he was a charming man. They accompanied him home. They travelled on a Mercy Ships vehicle home. He was with us for about 3 months. And his wife, there's no communication with the village. And his wife thought he had died. That's why he hadn't come back. And they were just driving up towards the village when he saw his wife, and she didn't recognise him. She hadn't seen him for 20 years without this great big lump. So it was really exciting. So that is just a miracle. And but we do get many of these tumours. But this was an exceptional patient, and we all loved him. Really did love him. So it's an amazing story. I thought I'd tell you that one. I'll try not to spend so much time because we've got quite a few. Senegal was the country we were in when we went into lockdown, and we had to leave halfway through our service there, and we're going back to complete it in March, and then they'll have 2 ships there then. We do a lot of cleft lip and palate surgery, and you know, anyone with a disability or a disfigurement is seen as either having a demon or being under a curse, and that sometimes means that families abandon their children because the whole family don't want to feel that they're under a curse, because they will be socially isolated and it makes life very difficult. So it's a very sad situation there. This little one in particular has a very complicated one. She has not only a lip, but her nose hadn't fused properly, and she had a hole in her palate as well. So this was quite a complicated one, but you will see that they made a very good job. But she still has a wee bit of cosmetic surgery on her nose to be done, but she is remarkably, and these scars will disappear to be almost invisible as the years go by, and she'll grow up to be she's a beautiful wee girl anyway. I just think she's lovely. She wouldn't have been able to go to school as an older child. She would have been socially ostracized as well. Any disability, they're not allowed into school. So her future is secure now. She will have all the opportunities that she can get. Paul, burn contractures. Those of you who perhaps know a bit about Africa, that they cook on open fires. Children run around, and sometimes the child is stirring the pot. The ashes, they fall down, and so does the pot all over the child. So we get a lot of burns. It's a miracle that they survive, to be honest with you, with severe burns that we see, like this boy, Paul. But because they don't get the skin grafting and the treatment they get in the West, they heal, but they heal with, and the scars shrink, and that they call it a contracture, so their arms become bent and they can't move, sometimes their neck different. So they are very restricted, their fingers, they can't read, write, or do all the things that they're expected to do. But we have plastic surgeons who come, and you can see he can actually move his arms. He can lift his arms and bend them and straighten them, and his fingers are straight. So his life again is transformed, and he'll be much more acceptable socially to his community. So it really gives him a whole new life. Madeline, this is orthopedics. We get a lot of that. Sometimes they're born with a club foot. We don't operate on babies with club foot. We have what we call the pincetti method, and it's basically that the physiotherapists manipulate the foot, and then they put it in a plaster cast for a few weeks. Then they come back, and then they move the foot a bit further and recast it until it's eventually straight. People like this young lady, Madeleine, she is possibly a victim of rickets, and of course the bones are soft, poor nutrition, and the weight of the body as they grow actually bends the legs. But we see here after her operation, both legs are straight. They often have to have casts or some kind of support on their legs in case that the leg will go back into its twisted shape. So it takes usually up to a year in some kind of support, so that the leg will stay in place permanently after that. But you see how tall she is when she's in, a beautiful girl. Adama, we do a lot of eyes surgery. Eyes are done off the ship. We usually get a government building, and we renovate it, and we set up a clinic. We get a lot of people with cataracts, and some are born with cataracts. Some it's because of the sunlight and things. And Adama, she had cataracts in both eyes, and she was totally blind. And she had twin babies, and she'd never seen them. They come as day patients. They generally just do one eye to give them sight, so that we can do more patients, put it that way. And here she is, she had just seen her children for the first time, and that was so thrilling for her. And again, it's life-changing. We also take children in as well, but they come in as inpatients. The adults are day patients, but we take them in because they have to have an anaesthetic, where the ladies are, the adults are just local anaesthetic. We went to Cameroon, and Meramu, she had an obstetric fistula. Very common in Africa because of the lack of obstetric care and no antenatal care, often many miles away from a hospital if they get into labour. And we have a lot of child marriages as well, and their bodies are not fit for carrying a baby to term. And what happens, they go into labour, and they can be 3-4 days in labour, severe labour, and not able to deliver the baby. Baby gets stuck, it dies in utero, and it damages the woman's inside, and she ends up incontinent of urine and sometimes from her bowels as well. If they're married, their husband abandons them because they will no longer be able to have children. They have to get the baby torn out of them, taken out, so they have to try and get to some kind of medical care, but that's often very rare, and sometimes the mother dies as well as the baby. But we have several weeks in the 10 months where they come, usually in groups. We have quite a few at a time, and we get their bladder repaired, and it really transforms their life. And it means that, you know, they can be back in their community because they smell. They are socially, you know, excluded from everything, and they often, in the villages, they have a little hut of their own on the outside of the village, so that they're not there, so they're not very welcome in society like that. And it's a bit, they're ashamed, and even their families will leave them and have nothing to do with them. So it can be quite tragic. So it's very, very, they get their life back basically, and some of them get married again. Some of the countries they would go into, that if they get pregnant, they will give them a free operation to get the baby out. So that is good. General surgery, that's generally things like hernias. A lot of hernias, people work very hard physically, and it can cause a lot of hernias, and some very bad hernias. And general things like lymphomas, benign lumps and tumours on the body can be removed. Dental clinic. The dental clinics are actually off the ship. They're usually in the community, sometimes out in the country. And again, the patients just come and queue up, and they come in their hundreds, and sometimes they're doing about 60 patients a day. And people's, you know, they don't know about dental hygiene. We also have dental hygienists there who are teaching them the importance of brushing their teeth, and they give them free toothbrushes and toothpaste and teach them how to use it. A lot of the huge tumours that you see are actually caused by people who've had dental abscesses that have never been treated, and that the rotting teeth have been left over the years, and it damages the tissues around and causes the tumours to grow, which is life-threatening for them. We don't treat cancer. We do palliative care. The reason we don't treat cancer is, one, we don't have the facilities for radiotherapy, and there's no availability of chemotherapy drugs in Africa very well. Also, there is the ethical aspect, because we're only there for 10 months. You know, cancer treatment can go on for years, as you know that. And to start treatment and then just sail away and leave them halfway, it's just not right. So if they can get it locally, then we would put them to local doctors who can do the treatment, but they have to pay for it. But we do give palliative care. We have a team that goes out and supports the patient at home and the families from the time they're diagnosed to if we're still there when they pass away, we're there with the family to support them as well. So we have a specialised team for that as well. We do pain control and all things like that, and antibiotics for infections, and also just emotional and spiritual care. medical capacity building, as well as doing all these surgeries, which is obviously our primary goal, but we are also doing medical capacity building and that training. Can you hear?
Yes, we can hear.
That's okay, that's good. Is my time up?
No, no.
No, okay. Trying to get it to move on. There we are. This lady is an amazing lady. She's called Dr. Adri Agbesi, and she's from Benin, which is just next door to Nigeria. She was the first woman surgeon in her country and really in most of West Africa. She'd had an ambition to be a surgeon since she was very young. She did qualify, and she came to Mercy Ships to do one of our training days and weeks, and she came with the surgeon, got experience with them as well. And once she had completed the training, she went back to Benin, and she's the only reconstructive surgery in that country. But as well as now doing the reconstructive surgery, especially like Paul, who had the severe burns, she does a lot of that kind of thing. She actually teaches other and trains other surgeons in Benin now. So that's what we mean by capacity building. It's building up the whole of their healthcare, especially surgical healthcare in their country by using their training and then training others. And that is one of our big goals. I said that we actually renovate hospitals. You'll see this is an operating theatre that has been renovated. This is it before on the left, or you right possibly. And you can see, if you look how dirty the bed is, the floor is, the walls are, and the equipment is minimal, and it's all modernised on the other side with good lighting, a good anaesthetic machine, and all the other equipment there. So that's another aspect of it. And this is our Africa Mercy. And this is a Global Mercy. These are the two ships that are going to be working together when they go back to Senegal in March. And the reason we have two ships now is because we can now double the capacity of the work we're doing, and double the capacity means double the impact, so that we can do more work and improve more countries and improve the healthcare available to people. This is a little bit of the details of the ship, how long it is, its tonnage. The Africa Mercy has 5 operating theatres, and at any one time there are 450 crew on board when it's docked. But overall in a year it's over 1,000, because people are coming and going. Like myself, I was there for 2 months. People are there for 6 months, you know, whatever. The Global Mercy, much bigger. We have 6 operating theatres on that ship, with this huge auditorium, so we can have lots of you know, people coming for teaching there. And also we have a student academy for the doctors and the surgeons. It takes 950 crew on board at any one time, which gives us, we need over 1,000 volunteers at any one time. And as people are coming and going, you can almost double that amount in a year, in the 10 months. So we need a lot of volunteers. So if you know anybody that's got the skills, you don't have to be a nurse or a doctor. There are over 200 different jobs on board. So there's plenty of opportunities. There's always something that you can do to help out. We also train local people, especially the ones who come on as you know, deckhands, and they can actually stay on the ship and get a career out of it. They'll end up being you know, ships officers or engineers or all the different sort of maritime things. So they actually work for their qualifications on board the ship. So they come as apprentices. On board at the blood bank, we don't have enough capacity to store lots and lots of blood, and we cannot take blood from the local communities because of HIV, Ebola, all these kind of things. So we have to have it from the volunteers who come on. So when we arrive on the ship, we can sign a form to say we're willing to donate blood, and you get called when it's needed. And I've only done it once because I'm O positive, which is very common in our country and in the West. In Africa, they tend to be A, B, and B, so they don't need so much of the O's. So I've only needed to do it once. 30% of our crew are local residents. We take on local people. We need them for a lot. They get involved in a lot of the different aspects of the work on the ship, but also they come as translators because there are often many different dialects, local dialects. So we need a whole mix of crew who have different dialects, and also French is actually, French and English are the two main official languages in the country, and mostly French. So Mercy Ships and employs quite a lot of them, and they do a great work, and really we couldn't do things without them. So, but because of you, we can do this. With your support, we will do much more than what we've already done. And Rotary, you have done a great job. Over the years, you have funded so many different things, and I'm very well aware of the impact of our partnership with Rotary, and we really appreciate it. So donating, you can give a gift that will help us deliver free life-changing surgeries. You can volunteer. It could be you. Even people who are retired and older still have something to give. And fundraising, helping to spread the message of Mercy Ships and raise funds. And if you know quite a lot about us, then you can come and be trained and be a speaker like myself. So you can also be a speaker. And just thank you very much for all you've done. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and I'm very happy to answer any questions that have arisen. I hope you enjoyed it.
Sandra, thank you very much for that presentation. I've been writing words down. I'm a bit emotional. It's a wonderful thing that you're doing, and such a comprehensive presentation. I'm not sure if there will be many questions left, but I will open it up then to everyone to ask questions, please.
Yeah.
In the usual manner, please put a hand up. Derek, you're the first one.
Thank you, President. Sandra, that was a very inspirational talk, and we have regularly supported Mercy Ships. My question actually centers around, you said that a ship had been sent to Haiti in the emergency there, but also during your talk you said, well, it takes 2 years before you can organize and prepare for a ship to go in. So I just wondered, are they occasionally on standby for emergencies like Haiti?
No, the ship didn't go to Haiti. What they did is they have teams on hand to go out and help with disasters, and they have done in various different disasters. And they were looking for volunteers to go and help out. And I went to help out. They were working in partnership with a mission in a village about an hour's drive from Port-au-Prince, which had also been, but it was an American mission that was already there, had been there for over 20 years. But it was an amazing story actually, but I won't go into all that because I'll be here all night if I do. But I went out for a month and we worked in a tent hospital and also in their actual little, what we would call a clinic as well. Did a lot of the dressings and helped with the pharmacy and things like that. Yeah. Good. So it was teams that were going out to help. I joined a team from Texas. Good. I was the only Brit there at the time, but they were desperate. It was an amazing experience. It was a very traumatic experience in many ways. It was so heartbreaking. It really was so heartbreaking to see what had happened. Yeah. But yeah, it was a privilege to be there. But yeah,
thank you very much. That's great.
Yeah. Any other questions? Anyone with their hand up? Wow. Well, oh,
I have
Liz, sorry.
I do quite a lot of work backwards and forwards to southern Malawi and into Mozambique.
Oh yeah.
One of the things, I'm a home economist, so
Yeah.
I'm not medically trained, but the
Mm.
number of times that I've seen children in
Mhm.
fire,
Yeah.
the burns.
Oh,
And
yeah.
also one of the things that struck me before COVID, the last time I was out during the floods, actually, there was still loads of kids with burns, was the lack of all the superstition about what you do with a burn,
Mhm.
you know, exactly the wrong things to do.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I've been trying to sort of set up, it's again, you know, capacity, just first aid.
Mhm. Yeah.
And this is it, you know, and this is, and try and pass this on.
Mhm.
And I think from what they're saying back, because a Zoom call, that we're maybe getting there, but it is such a huge problem in Africa because of the
Yeah.
food picking fires, you know.
It is. It's massive. Yeah. Yeah, and you're right about you know, their treatment of burns as well. One of the things that the department I was in, we were doing admissions, but also we were responsible for training some of the day workers who to sort of do healthcare would go through all like hygiene and burns, dressing wounds, and what to do and what not to do, all sorts of aspects of healthcare, you know, the things that we take for granted, and we trained them up in all different aspects of that. And burns was one of them, how to treat a burn.
Yeah.
And that was one of them, yeah. I've been to Malawi. I've got friends out there, a couple who've been there for over 20 years as missionaries. And my husband and I went out one time. Our young people in our church had done a fundraiser, and we went out with that money for them, and travelled around quite a bit and saw a lot and loved it. I loved the people there. They were so warm and friendly. But I think they're coming home. They're retiring soon. They'll be coming home. And one of our best friends, she had been there before them and set up an infant feeding programme. And it's been ongoing now for over 20 years. And they're hoping somebody will take it over when they leave. So I visited that as well. Yeah.
Yes, you know, I sort of realised I crippled myself in Skye. It wasn't even when I was in Mozambique in the floods, you know,
Yeah.
but sort of thinking, well, who takes over? I was actually thinking, well, who takes over? Because I have a cooperative of women with polio who sew and make they make clothes and they sell them to tourists going up Mount Blangy, but they also make scrubs and things like that. But I shouldn't have worried, because capacity building, they're now training the next generation.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah, and we've got a farm now, and they're doing it themselves. So
Yeah.
I sort
And
of,
that's what you want to empower them to do things for themselves, don't you? Yeah.
yes,
Great.
absolutely.
It's the answer. In the long term, it's the answer, isn't it? Yeah.
But yeah.
That's good. It's good to hear that. Yeah.
Do you have any other questions from anyone? I'm not seeing any other hands up. Oh, Stuart.
It's not really a question. It's more a point for Liz. If you're interested in first aid in Africa, I know of an organisation called, funnily enough, First Aid Africa, that recruits
I'm
students.
already in touch with it.
You know it, right? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I've been working with them for the last, since before COVID. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Young man, yeah.
Thank you. Well, Sandra, I have to say, what a great presentation. I've been jotting down some notes, some words. I mean, there are some desperate people out there, but with those amazing surgeries, it's life-changing. And it's you mentioned near the end there, it's not just changing the lives of the individuals, but you're changing the countries with the infrastructure that you're putting in, with the transformation of the buildings, etc. The one thing that does sort of tug at the heartstrings is the palliative care.
Yeah.
You know, and I suppose there has to be a line drawn somewhere. You know,
Yeah.
you can't help everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd like to give a heartfelt thank you for your presentation, and I would like to ask the club to show their appreciation in the usual manner.
I can't clap because I'm holding on to the computer. There you go.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your opportunity, and nice to hear about your work, Liz, as well. So thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, right.
Nice to see you, John, as well. I
Yes,
see you there.
welcome, John.
Nice to see you.
Sorry, I didn't
Yeah.
see you on. I had a just a single screen on. I didn't see you arrive, but
Yeah.
welcome. I hope you heard a lot of the presentation, etc. And same with Ola. I'm glad you visited us. As I mentioned to Sandra at the start, we now go into a bit of club administration and just a few points, notes, etc. So if you wish to leave, you can, or you're more than welcome to stay.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be long, just a few minutes.
It's okay. I'll just
Bye.
leave then. But,
Oh, okay,
thank you.
John.
Thank
John,
you.
nice to
Thank
meet you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Bye.
Okay,
Bye.
I get to leave. Where am I?
thank you. Just some notices. I've got Sheena sent out an email there to the rest of us saying that the new banner has arrived. It looks really good. A reminder, I did mention it last week that about the Mount Dora meeting. It's been confirmed as being on Zoom on the 2nd of December at 3 p.m. for those of you of an invite. I've also got a note of the Young Environmentalist briefing for anyone who wishes to join that on the 29th of November on Zoom. Sheena's been busy communicating. There are some issues that we might need to talk about with the committee, but the likes of Money for Murray and donations to Chaz are some groups that are interesting, and some information that we can send out. A reminder to everyone that there is a council meeting next week at 7 p.m. That's the 2nd of December. And for our next week's meeting, it's down for Ali Scrimminger with a vote of thanks from Chris Kroom. I was just wondering if anyone has any. Oh,
I haven't actually heard from Ali. I've written to him a couple of times and he's never replied. So we've actually got Helen Moore talking next week. And she's talking about the platinum badge thing for Murray, which is for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. So that's next week. I have had no contact with Ali.
okay. Thanks for that, Sheena. Are there any other points of note? I don't have anything else.
Can I just
there's a couple of Stuart.
mention the Christmas lunch on the 16th? I've put out letters to everybody, but at the moment I've had very, very few replies. I've had actually more replies from the Friends than I've had from Rotarians. So it's not, at the moment, it doesn't look good, you know. So that's all I can say. That
Okay, well reminded. Please get your replies in. The two Stuarts have their hands up. I'll go with Stuart Jebb first, and then come back to you, Stuart. Right.
Okay, thank you. I've been completing the accounts for year 2021. They're currently with the auditor, and I've had a couple of conversations with him. Some questions have arisen with which I'll need some help from Marilyn and Stuart, perhaps. Marilyn first. He's interested in seeing some form of invoice or confirmation for the money that we gave to Benonu School back in 2021. Do we know when we give them a donation, how do they acknowledge that?
We have the receipts.
Right.
Receipts for what?
So we gave a donation to Benonu School of money. We like 5,300 was given to them in 2021.
All the
so
spent in for that, Stuart.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
All the receipts are there.
Yeah. So maybe Stuart has those. Then I don't have sight of them, but
listen, all the receipts have actually gone to Foundation because we got the grant from Rotary Foundation. So
Yeah.
all the receipts have actually been sent to them.
Right. So who would I contact there to get a copy?
Bill Ross.
Paul Ross.
Bill.
Bill
Ross. Bill Ross. Okay. Okay.
If
thanks.
you have a copy of the email, it might have the PDF or whatever on it. You could have that.
Well, I probably sent it, but it'll be, I've got hundreds of emails.
Yeah, I'll
So-
contact Bill Ross. That's okay. Would the same be true for donations that we make to foundation? So like for End Polio and BBC Children in Need, that goes through the district, I think. Maybe not.
Usually to the district.
Right. So if I have an email that's, you know, come back from district, for example, saying, thanks very much for your BBC Children in Need contribution, that's probably enough. The auditor will be happy with that. But if we have receipts, that's even better. Okay, I'll maybe talk to you offline, Stuart, and see if you've got anything still in your email box or anything from back then. But that was all. But just there's sort of a few outstanding things that he was interested in seeing.
Okay.
Otherwise, we should have the accounts approved in time for the special general meeting on the 9th of December, which I know is our target.
Okay, Stuart, thanks very much for your hard work on that. Stuart Murray, you had your hand up earlier. Oh.
Yes, I met Lee and Margaret Bell in Elgin a fortnight ago. Some of you may not know he's already moved to Aberdeen. He hasn't moved his or registered with his medical practice yet, so he came through to Elgin for his booster jab, and I met him there. He's now sent me his new address of his house in Westhill. I'll send it on to Sheena so she'll have it.
Thank you.
Hush.
Your microphone's at the top of your head.
I keep doing that because I was coughing and then trying to take a drink. Sorry, was there any other questions? Any other hands? No. Well, I think that's the end of tonight's inspirational meeting, I think. Very good. Oh, Stuart.
A quick question for Christine. Can we speak offline about the feedback and where we go with that? I know you probably haven't had time to look at it, but you're on mute, by the way.
I think the answer is yes, but we can't.
Well, I can say that Christine and I were working on it this afternoon, so it's well in hand.
Good, thank you.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that brings us to the end of the meeting.
Oh, it's still not. It's not.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Been a lovely evening, and have a good rest of the week and weekend. Staying out the cold.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Right.
Bye now. Bye.
Bye.